Welcome back. Today, we're going to focus on what we're trying to do at SunX Malta with our passion for climate-friendly travel. We'll explain our structure, our concept and value proposition, our main focus on youth, and we want to explore with you how this can be of interest to NTOs as you develop your own sustainability and climate programs, which we believe will become an increasingly important part of your activities in the years ahead.
SunX was probably conceived 25 years ago at the Rio Earth Summit in 1992. I was just starting off as the president of the World Travel and Tourism Council, which is now the business leaders organization for the travel and tourism sector. I was the first employee, and we were creating a story that said travel and tourism is the biggest industry in the world. We didn't have very much to go by. We had limited statistical material, but we had the 6 biggest companies in the world who said we have to be there on the world stage. And our message at that time was tourism is great. Tourism is good for you. Tourism creates jobs. Tourism deals with poverty and the whole thing. And I had begun to see that there are some downsides as well. And that like any economic activity, there are limitations to how good growth is. So I went to the Rio Earth Summit. I had that capacity. I met the chairman of the Secretary General of the summit, Maurice Strong. Maurice Strong had been the father of sustainable development, and he had been involved for 40 years in building up this from the Club of Rome, right through the Brundtland Commission, to the creation of the United Nations Environment Programme, to this big summit, with the biggest summit that had ever been held, to ask the question, what are we doing about the planet? And I was fortunate. Maurice Strong and I hit it off. It was a 25-year friendship and mentorship. I learned from him. I think I was one of his closest confidants at the end. And SunX is a legacy to Maurice Strong. It's the Strong Universal Network. And we added the X at a certain stage because climate change is existential. And amidst all of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 2030, 2050 agenda, there's just one existential issue. If we don't fix climate change, your kids, my kids, our grandchildren, they're not going to be here. Or they're going to be here in very trying circumstances. And if you want an example of this, you only have to look at what's happened the last month in the Caribbean, which scientists are telling us is pretty much a result of the warming of the oceans and the volatility that's been introduced into our weather. And in 1 month, whole countries can be wiped out. That's what existential means. So SunX is a system where over the next 10, 15 years, we want to set up a movement amongst young people. We want to set up monitoring stations in every country. We want to join them on the cloud, and we want to pull from this massive information that everybody is looking at on sustainable development, which are the really important ones that popular movements will say, enough is enough, you can't keep doing business in this same fashion, you have to change.
So to recap, we created, with Maurice Strong's encouragement in 2010, a not-for-profit EU-based NGO in Brussels, the Green Growth and Travelism Institute. Green growth was the fashionable expression for sustainable at the time. Think of the Green Growth Knowledge Institute in Korea, for example. And travelism is just an amalgam of travel and tourism. More hip, easier to publish, and gets over the holiday assumptions that exist around tourism. In other words, it makes sure that it includes the important business travel piece. It's that business travel, by the way, which is so important for cities, and cities themselves are so important in the overall travel and tourism ecosystem and in the changes which are going to have to take place to respond to the Code Red climate crisis. In 2015, we introduced a program called SUN, Strong Universal Network. It was targeting universities at the time, and it focused on the climate crisis. It was part of Morris's grand design for a World Environment University. And he asked a dozen of his friends to contribute in specific areas, me for travelism. The university never materialized, except for SunX. And we struggled for 3 years, like many NGOs, to raise enough funds to survive. Then, in 2019, we made a massive leap with our 5-year strategic partnership with the government of Malta and long-term ETC stalwart Leslie Vella. We agreed to create a center of our activity in Malta under the theme of a plan for our kids. As Greta Thunberg says, the ones who will have to clean up the mess. This slide shows who we are, obsessed by the Code Red climate crisis, a transformation catalyst. Also an advocate for tough decisions on climate response. And as indicated yesterday, we were a charter signature of the Glasgow Declaration. But as we signed, we called for the declaration organizers and for the industry generally to go further, faster. And here we made a whiteboard to show what it is that we stand for.
Climate change is the major existential challenge humanity faces. If we don't fix it, our grandkids will freeze or fry. The destructiveness of extreme weather is increasing dramatically, and resources for life, particularly water, food, and the air we breathe, are threatened more and more. Fiercer hurricanes, longer droughts, accelerating sea level rises, and massive storm surges threaten civilization as we know it, and with it, starvation, poverty, migration, and conflict. The world established a response path in 2015 in the Paris Accords and SDG 13, with a measured, nationally based, but globally coordinated structure focused on a worldwide 2050 carbon reduction target. Over time, this will be adapted to respond to the scientifically measured changing impacts of climate and weather patterns, the related SDG impacts, and the shifting geopolitical buy-in. Travel and tourism, as a lead global development agent, has to step up to the plate with actions. The more so as many of our core products are in the front line: transport, particularly aviation, coastal facilities, infrastructure, for example, will need radical transformation and support. We are not going far enough, fast enough. We need to be in the mainstream of change. It means low carbon, renewable energy focused, socially inclusive, resource efficient, cloud connected, and biodiversity conserving. It also means building this transformation into our education systems, from school through university. We can set the path, but it's the next generation that will have to tread it. Business as usual is not enough. Moderate change is not enough. Only total transformation is enough. SunX, the strong universal network, has been established to make this happen and is building global partnerships under SDG 17 to create this change. Please join us at www.thesunprogram.com.
And we haven't just been about making nice statements. Over the past 3 years, we've created a concept of climate-friendly travel, CFT, linked to the SDGs and their 2030 targets, and Paris 1.5 with 2050. We've built a registry for companies and communities to showcase their ambitions and their performance, and through this to appear on the UN Global Climate Action Portal. And the registry is a really important part of our activities. It was a very serious investment in the building of the database and the web framework. And we believe this registry can become a place for all travel and tourism companies and communities to identify their ambitions. And in the spirit of the Glasgow Declaration, one of the pathways is collaboration. And we believe that this registry can be part of that overall collaboration. It exists, it's been supported by the government of Malta, the World Travel and Tourism Council, and the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We've engaged with a growing cadre of SDG 17 partners directly, and now, as you will hear later, with a commercial partner. We've launched an eco badge for companies and communities showing CFT commitment. We've developed, with the support of ITS, the Institute of Tourism Studies in Malta, a postgraduate diploma in climate-friendly travel. And we've trained a first cadre of 30 students from 25 countries as strong climate champions to lead country initiatives. And we have another 50 ready to start in October on scholarships from the world's poorest countries and from Ukraine. We've held 2 think tanks of top tourism experts and 2 SAYS, Strong Earth Youth Summits. And last but not least, we've issued 2 annual reports, a 2030 climate-friendly travel strategy, and produced a monthly Exist e-bulletin. Now we're going to dig a little more deeply into what this is all about. So first, we're going to start with our climate-friendly travel system. It's not a pathway. It's not a certification program. It's not a policy. It embraces all of these and more. It's a way of life for a community, for visitors, and for those who are visited, the residents. And it's important that all 3 elements are engaged and on the same page in the development of sustainable tourism and in the climate fight. If the industry wants more cruise ships, but the residents don't, you have a problem. If the shop owners want more festivals, but the residents don't, you have a problem. If the governance wants more golf courses, but it affects the water for residents, you have a problem. And so on. And these are the kind of issues that you as NTOs will have to think of as you're developing your sustainability and your climate action plans for the future. Now, to hear more about climate-friendly travel, I want to start off by explaining the framework for it in another video. And this slide shows it in a simplified form. Number one, it starts with a community. It can be a country, a city, a rural village. It can be developed or it can be developing. We seek to engage all stakeholders with tourism companies as the focal point. Number two, it has an ambitions registry to transparently align with the SDGs and Paris 1.5, linking declarations with action and integrated into the UN climate portal. Number three, it is driven by young, trained, strong climate champions. This is the heart of our ecosystem and its global potential. And we are working with the Institute of Tourism Studies in Malta and have created a diploma in climate-friendly travel and short, intensive online courses. We're building visionary SDG 17 partnerships for support and a curated good practice data portal. And number four, we have a climate-friendly travel eco badge for consumer recognition. And now we're going to hear from my friend and colleague, Ollie Wheatcroft, around the essence of the programme.
Hi, I'm Ollie Wheatcroft. I'm the Programme Manager at SunX Malta. I've been working alongside Jeffrey Lippman for the last 5 years to help to develop a climate-friendly travel framework, which was inspired by Maurice Strong, the first person to put climate change on the global agenda. This slide is all about how we are trying to help to support and engage companies and communities. And the green arrow on the diagram represents the 50-year transformation journey starting in 1972 with the UN Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment, which was the first Earth Summit. It then goes through the key milestone events in the evolution of sustainable development and climate change strategy, from the 1987 Brundtland Commission to the Rio Earth Summit and subsequent Agenda 21. Key milestone events then include the Millennium Development Goals, which subsequently was transitioned into being the Sustainable Development Goals as we now know them. And then, most importantly, in terms of the context of climate-friendly travel, the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Maurice Strong was the first person to put climate change on the global agenda and to recognise the existential nature of climate change. And the graph on the right is our critical focal point. The area in red near the bottom of the curve is where we are now, and our mission is to bend our trend to transition into the blue section onto a more sustainable pathway. Climate-friendly travel has three main components. It's low carbon, contributing to the sector transformation of travel and tourism. It's SDG linked, focusing on goal 13, as well as all relevant sustainable development goal interlinkages. And finally, focuses on the Paris Climate Agreement with what is now clearly a 1.5 degree target. Our climate-friendly travel framework has two main components, action and education. Within the work on action, we're spearheading through our climate-friendly travel registry for 2050 climate neutral and sustainability ambitions. This is a place where companies and communities can commit, plan and record their action programs and receive support to achieve their climate and sustainability goals. We've developed a series of support hubs focusing on innovation and best practice, strategy in the form of reports from the public and private sector, and learning through multimedia resources on climate-friendly travel. And finally, marketing through SDG 17 partner organisations, providing outreach and online visibility. Education starts in the schools, with a lesson plan for teachers based around 65 cartoons featuring a friendly dodo that returns from extinction to support climate-friendly travel. Our climate-friendly travel diploma, which was launched in October of last year, 2020, and currently has 45 students from over 30 countries learning about the fundamentals of climate-friendly travel, taught by some of the leading experts across the world on climate change and tourism. Our annual Maurice Strong Youth Summit and Awards, which we are proud to launch this year and hope to grow year on year as a key annual event. And finally, our plan for our kids to train 100,000 strong climate champions across all UN states by 2030. Our outreach is led through our State of the Sector annual report with the World Travel and Tourism Council. It focuses on the development of climate-friendly travel to support the transformation of companies and communities to meet their Paris 1.5 degree commitment. We work through SDG 17 partnership agreements with like-minded organisations to strengthen our capacity. For example, with WTTC within the travel and tourism sector and the Earth Council covering the sustainable development sector. All of this reflects the vision of the inspiration for SumNext, Maurice Strong. We're committed to making the next 10 years the decade of climate-friendly travel. Over this period, we've set the following targets: to support 100,000 climate champions across all UN states, 10,000 companies to be supported to develop robust climate plans on the registry, 500 communities who are committed to climate-friendly travel with registered climate action plans, 1,000 climate-friendly travel diploma graduates, and 5,000 trainers working through 200 nationally sponsored climate champions programs. This is what we've called a plan for our kids, a support system for travel and tourism to meet its commitment under the Paris Climate Agreement through climate-friendly travel.
Next, I said that the entry point to the program is our registry of SDG and Paris 1.5 action. And we have the registrar, Dr. Hans Fredrik, here, first explaining the system, and then in an interview we made for our recent Strong Earth Youth Summit, an annual event designed to engage young travellers and graduates from 18 to 30 in the climate-friendly travel ecosystem. We're also going to show a brief description of how the registry actually works and what it looks like for people who are going to use it in the future, both to those who list their ambitions and their progress, and those who want to see what is being undertaken. That's a key component of the registry. It's all about transparency.
Hello, I'm Hans Friedrich, and I'm the registrar of the Climate Friendly Travel Registry. And I'd like to spend a few minutes to explain to you what this registry is all about and how it works. As you know, the United Nations Climate Convention is looking at the carbon reduction ambitions of everybody in the world. And they've created what is called the Climate Action Portal to register these ambitions. Governments have signed up to this. Governments are creating what is called the National Determined Contributions. So they are putting their carbon reduction plans on that registry. And within the government's ambitions, of course, are the ambitions of local authorities, as well as cities, and of business. So industry, including the tourism industry, has to comply as well. Now, what we're saying is start making your plans now. Start thinking about your current carbon emissions. So what is your, as we say, what is your carbon footprint now? What will it be in 2050? And how will you get to that? How will you reach that zero carbon emission goal by 2050? And to do so, making a plan to do so is not just a charitable decision, it's actually quite a financial sensible thing to do, because reducing your carbon reduction, reducing your CO2 emissions, mostly means reducing your energy consumption, and reducing energy means reducing costs. So actually making a plan makes sense from a financial perspective. We're asking you to make those plans within the context of the other Sustainable Development Goals, because they're all interlinked. You know, the 17 goals have all interlinkages. So what you do for carbon may have an impact on some of the other SDGs and vice versa. And when you have this plan, register it, record it. And we've created the Climate Friendly Travel Registry to do just that. The Climate Friendly Travel Registry is the only link for the travel and tourism community into the United Nations Action Portal at the moment. Let me read to you a message that we recently received from the United Nations, which says, "I congratulate the WTTC on the Climate Friendly Travel Registry launched jointly with Sunex Malta, with us, and I welcome the opportunities this offers to travel and tourism organizations to develop, register and promote their climate strategies, plans and achievements in support of the goals of the Paris Agreement. I look forward to seeing all travel and tourism organizations participating in this climate-friendly travel registry, as well as redoubling their efforts to ensure a climate-neutral and resilient world by 2050 at the latest." Now that statement is by Patricia Espinosa, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Climate Convention, and she's basically saying, register your plans because this is the link with the United Nations. The other reason why we say you should start registering is your customers, your clients are looking for action. They are concerned, of course, about the health issues at the moment related to the COVID epidemic, but people are starting to ask questions about the environmental impact of your operations. What are you thinking about climate action? What are you doing to reduce your carbon? So by registering a plan, you may get new customers. As I mentioned, the governments have made their commitments. The governments are getting more and more serious about this, and governments are therefore going to have legislation. They're having regulations that will basically make it obligatory to have your own climate action plans. So by registering a plan now on the CFT registry, you're ahead of the curve. You're preparing yourself for a not too distant time in the future when you have to do this legally. What we're asking though is not just a pledge. You know, we're not just asking you to say, we agree that climate change is an important issue and we will try and get to zero by 2050. We need figures. The United Nations wants facts, it wants real data, so they can monitor, because you can only monitor what you're measuring. And therefore, we want that as well. We want you to actually put on this registry facts and figures. Now that sounds complicated, but actually it's not that difficult. Let me explain. It's basically a website, you know, climatefriendly.travel. And when you get onto it, the first part is really the pledge that I talked about earlier. It is a statement that says, yes, I agree with climate friendly travel, low carbon, SDG linked, following the 1.5 Paris Agreement. We want your name, your company details, an email contact so we can be in touch with you, and a signature. And that basically is the statement. You then have to pay a small administration fee that allows us to maintain the website, work on communications issues and get more information onto the website. And you then get into part B, which is really where the information is needed. Because as I said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. The first questions relate to these sustainable development goals. We're trying to actually say, look, what is important for you as a company? I can imagine that a hotel on a beach might say, you know, SDG 14, life in the sea, is critical for us. Yet a hotel in a city might say, well, that's not really important. A lodge in a forest might say SDG 15, life on land is important for us. But again, a restaurant somewhere else on a beach may say, no, that's not actually important for us. So each enterprise, each company will have different sustainable development goals that are particularly relevant, particularly important. We're then asking you real carbon data, starting with your current footprint. What are your emissions today? When do you think your emissions will peak? What do you think your emissions will be in 2030, in 2040, and 2050? And how do you get there? So this is the real information that is needed, and it's not easy, but it can be done. We will help you with this because on the web are a number of hubs, as we call it, with information. You know, there's an innovation hub with case studies, with innovative new information. There's a learning hub with guidelines and guidance. We have a strategy hub which tells you more about strategic interventions. So basically it provides you with documents, with guidance, with contacts, with links for you to make your plans. We also have on the registry a few windows where you can list anything that you want to show, any innovation that you're particularly proud of, or any particular plan you would like to share with the rest of the world. So that this is a living system, as it were. And every year we hope to upgrade, we hope to update, we hope to review, and of course slowly getting down to that carbon zero target of 2050. I hope that's given you enough information. We already have some registered parties. We're getting many more this year, but let's leave it at that and ready to answer any questions. Thank you.
Hans has moved into what he thought was going to be retirement in the beautiful island of Gozo in Malta, and we hooked up, and now he's the registrar. So Hans, you're very welcome. Would you say a little bit about what the Climate Friendly Travel Registry is and what it does for tourism companies and communities and ultimately for consumers?
Yes, I think, Jeffrey, the registry is really part of the wider CFT community, if I can call it that, you know, climate friendly travel community. The registry is really the place where companies, small and large, from all over the world, can list their climate and sustainability ambitions. And the registry is really, I would say, the entry point into that community.
What is it for people to join and join the SunX community and sign up to the registry? And how much does it cost?
You know, basically the process is you go on a website. I mean, the Climate Friendly Travel Registry has its own website, Climate Friendly Travel. And basically you go on that website, you fill in a few of the windows, you know, the name of your hotel, your website, an email address that we can contact you at, and you basically agree with the principles of climate friendly travel, the low carbon, the SDG link, and the Paris 1.5 compliant, and you then literally press the button to say, I join. Joining part A is very simple. This is for free. Basically, we want you to join the community if you're serious about climate change and you're serious about sustainability.
So if I'm a hotel and I want to be part of this system and get whatever benefits there are from the system, I answer a few simple questions.
Costs nothing.
I sign my sense of commitment, and that's it. And then
That's all.
How long before you come at me with this dreadful part B?
Well, the thing is, Jeffrey, that the registry is in a way linked to the United Nations. I talk about that a bit later. And they have said you've got 2 years to come up with your plan. So we will give you 2 years to work out the actual ambitions that you would want to list on the part B. And basically, we're with you during those 2 years. If you say in a few months' time, I really want to start talking about this, can you help me to work out how I can actually find out what my carbon footprint is? We can start talking with you. If you say, look, at the moment, we're still recovering after the whole COVID crisis and we haven't got our things quite together yet, can we wait for a few months and we deal with this later in the year? Fine. We're not forcing you to do anything. What we are basically providing is a window of opportunity. And as I will explain later, I think also to help you get ready for the future, because the future may well be much more demanding on you.
And that's what you're telling us is why companies need to start on this now, need to put together sustainability and climate action plans to prepare for what's coming down the pike, so to speak.
Yes, I think, to be honest, I think we all know by now climate change is existential. I mean, there's no longer a question whether climate change is actually something that's happening. We all know that there are big changes taking place. As the United Nations Secretary General himself said, it's code red. It really is becoming critical to deal with climate change. And governments have all signed up to this global convention, a United Nations Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement, as we often call it, which is a simple term. And governments have therefore agreed to make plans, and they are actually listing those plans. I mean, if you think about it, just a few months ago in Glasgow, we had what's called COP26, which was the conference of the parties that have signed this agreement. And they basically told us what their latest plans are. In many cases, they have updated their plans. And every time when we ask governments what they're doing, they're getting more serious. They're getting more detailed in what they're asking people to do. And of course, a government is going to ask its citizens and its companies to help them.
And they're going to make regulations.
Well, exactly. Very soon this is going to become a legal obligation.
Yes, and they're going to rely on the one of the pieces of the jigsaw that you haven't touched on, which is these IPCC, the science reports, the objective, neutral, peer-reviewed, independent reports from hundreds of scientists around the world that tell us that we're running out of time, and that we, basically the most recent report is saying you have to peak your ambitions in 3 years. Yeah. You have to peak your emissions in 3 years. You have to halve them by 2030, and you have to have they call them net ambitions, but what you read behind the science is we have to maintain the actual carbon levels at very, very tight levels, and even perhaps find technology ways to reduce those levels, to take carbon out of the atmosphere. So this is the real McCoy, and you're doing what, Hans? You're recording this, and then you're helping people to meet these kind of increasing legal obligations.
Exactly, Jeffrey. I think, we're working in the tourism sector. Of course, all sectors have to work on this. So, there are the construction industry, the mining industry, they all have to think about this as well. Our sector is basically, on the one hand, travel, which of course is very important, but it's also the whole hospitality business. And basically what we're saying is, you need to start making plans, and we can help you. Because what we're trying to do is to provide information, provide guidance really for you to make these plans. I mean, we're not going to do it for you. On the one hand, it makes no sense for us to do it for you, because at the end of the day, you as a company, you as a hotel, you as a lodge have to decide what you want to do, how you want to do it, and what are the priorities for you. And we therefore will basically provide guidance. We provide access to information. We have the information on our website. And we are training a whole cadre of young climate activists that can help you with this and basically can help you to find your way through that enormous bulk of information that's available on the web, that we've curated to some of the stuff that is particularly relevant for the tourism industry.
So you have a kind of curated research library that's been built up, and then through this diploma, that I know this because we're running the diploma with ITS Malta, we're training young people to understand the dynamics of sustainable development and climate change, and to see how and where there is good practice information, which we've been gathering for some years, which can go back and help particularly small and medium-sized businesses as they grapple with this massive, complex global challenge, which is for them a local challenge. It's what is extreme weather going to do in my location? One, how can I make myself resilient to that? And two, how can I play my part in reducing the overall emissions amount, the quantity that the science tells us we all have to keep within? Is that a kind of first summary of it?
Correct. It's you know what the Climate Change Convention calls mitigating the emissions, so reducing the CO2 emitted by the industry, and adaptation to the effects of what's already happening. Because climate change, as we said earlier, is already happening. It's not a question of, well, in 10 years' time we may have to think about it. I mean, if you've got, you know, again, a hotel or a lodge on the coast, and already you see the coastal erosion increasing, you have higher storms, you have, you know, more chances of possibly even typhoons, of hurricanes, you need to start thinking about what you can do today, on the one hand, as you say, to reduce your impact, but more important maybe for you, how you can deal with those effects. What can you do in order to avoid being damaged, being washed out, losing your custom? So it's the two sides of the coin that are both important.
And of course, we are pulling together support service partners, other companies and organizations which have got specific programs in this area, like hotel resilience and helping people. And so that, and the registry is a kind of focal point for all this to happen. Is that right?
As I said, in the registry, we've got these various information, we call them information hubs. One of them is a sort of support hub. And as you say, there's a list there of consultants that we believe can help you out. I mean, that may be, you know, a question of actually paying for services. I mean, it's a negotiation you have to go into. But we also have a whole list of documents that we've gleaned from the web that will help you do things. And we have, as you say, partnerships with a number of organizations that work in this field that basically have agreed with us that they can provide services to start off for free. For example, as you said, a resilience assessment that gives you an idea of where are your real risks, as it were, and for you then to work out what to do next, whether you're going to deal it yourself, whether you're going to recruit someone to actually work out plans for you, whether you want to pay for a consultant to do it. I mean, there are various ways that you might want to go ahead, but we will help to sort of find the right way, if that's how I can put it best.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one last question, Hans, because this has been a pretty good tour d'horizon of everything. You make a big thing about this link to the UN Climate Agency. You know, I've heard you say this many times in the conversations that we've had between us, that this should be important to consumers in the end. Can you just say a few words about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, as we said earlier, Jeffrey, I mean, the countries of all countries in the world have agreed to basically take action. And they've done that because they are signatory to this global United Nations Convention. You know, and really, to be frank, it is the only thing, the only agreement that all countries have basically signed up to and said, yep, we need to do something. I mean, the Paris Accord was basically a unanimous decision that we need to try and keep global warming below 2 degrees and preferably below 1.5 degrees, because we know if it goes over that, we're going to be really in serious problems. So all governments have signed up to that UN convention. Now, the interesting thing is that they list all their information on their registry of that United Nations convention. And our registry is linked to that UN registry. So in a way, if a small hotel registers and lists its ambitions on the CFD registry, then indirectly or even directly, it is connected to the global United Nations mechanism, as it were. And that really is at the moment the only way that a small hotel, a medium-sized enterprise, can really be linked to the global initiative that all governments have signed up to.
Hans Frederick, registrar and good friend. and I want to welcome you to our climate friendly travel registry, which we've developed as part of a system to help travel and tourism companies and communities with your plans to reduce your carbon footprint. The registry is simply a tool that helps you to set your goals and to stay on track. It also links individually and collectively into the broader UN system of the Paris Climate Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals, so we can play our part in bending our trend of carbon emissions and being sustainable and responsible. Last but not least, it will help you to prepare for the evolving regulations that all governments will slowly introduce so that countries can meet their own commitments to carbon reduction under the Paris Climate Agreement. To use the registry, you have to do just two things. First, you have to commit to climate-friendly travel. That is low carbon, SDG linked, and Paris 1.5 trajectory. And you'll find that commitment in Part A of the entry form. It's very simple to complete, and everyone has to do it. The second thing is you have to create a long-term carbon reduction and sustainable development plan, and then you have to file it on the registry by completing Part B, and that will require measurements and projection. Newcomers to the world of carbon reduction will really only need to fill in Part A and will then have 2 years to work with us to create their plans before they actually need to complete Part B and to file them. More experienced stakeholders will probably have the information required, and they'll be able to complete Part B either from data which they have stored or from plans which they filed as part of one of the big global coalitions like the Global Compact. We've produced on the registry a simulation of what the entries will look like once it's populated, and you'll be able to see a typical example of a company or a community like your own where it's shown geographically, and you'll be able to drill down until you can see the actual plan that they're following. And this is for transparency purposes. At the same time, we've tried to provide guidance for the registration process in the About section, and you can access that from the home page. There's also a chat box for any questions you may have, and one of our team will answer those within 24 hours. The second and critical element is engagement with our strong climate champions, who are the engine room of the climate-friendly travel communities that we hope to foster around the world over the next decade. Through our diploma course, we give graduate students 300 hours of online classroom teaching about the SDGs and Paris 1.5 and the intersects with travel and tourism. Then we enter into a 1-year internship with them, where they become leaders in their own countries for building the climate-friendly travel system. where they outreach to other youth to form a driving network for the change which is going to happen, and where they identify and engage with key public and private sector organizations and other NGO stakeholders to develop a community-specific ecosystem based on the country's own climate and sustainability plans, the country's response to the SDGs, and the country's NDC, nationally determined contribution, which is being filed by every country with the UNFCCC. Our goal is to have 100,000 strong climate champions across all UN states by 2030. And we're going to listen to an interview with Angela Rodriguez, one of our diploma students, who will explain how the champions are found and what their approach is to building these networks. We're also going to hear from some of our recent graduates, so you can get an impression yourself of the impact of the learning experience they've been through, and also the quality. I'm very proud of these graduates in our diploma, and I'm hopeful that if you see the value in this, we can work together to bring this kind of thinking into your own countries. So here we are now with Angela Rodriguez, one of the top students on our diploma course this year. In fact, Angie was so good that we asked her to help us to frame the Strong Climate Champions program. And she has really drawn the framework of that program together. So Angie, you're very welcome. What would you say was the essence, the heart of the Strong Climate Champions program?
Well, thank you, Geoffrey. Thanks for inviting me to SAIS and to talk a little bit more about climate champions. The essence of the program, well, I think the essence comes from the heart of SUNEX. I think like everything we do, it has so much to do with the Maurice's strong vision and how he foreseen that the youth are the agents of change of tomorrow. So I think that we took that as our heart as well for the Strong Climate Champions, and that is basically what we've been trying to following his steps, follow his vision, and just adapting it to these times, right? To the times of digitalization, to the times of like when the climate crisis is actually even stronger, to the times of Maurice Strong. And yeah, just to actually bring together the youth to collectively do something about the climate emergency and how it interrelates with the tourism sector.
Yeah, and the youth to me don't seem to be so tied up with doing everything politically nicely. I think, you know, there's a recognition that we have a real crisis, and if we don't act, it's going to get terrible for everybody.
Yeah, well, I think we also a bit fed up, like we have so many promises from governments and promises from pacts and declarations and events, summits around the world that things were going to change, and we still see that actually is not the case. Things are not changing, and if they are, they're not changing at the pace we want them to. So I mean, yeah, we need to try every method that we possibly see to actually just initiate the transition to a low carbon economy where tourism plays a key role, and where we see that in many communities around the world, tourism is actually a source for millions of livelihoods. And if we can do this in a climate friendly way, I think we can actually do tourism for the future in a sense.
Yeah, and I think the people who are listening to this can see how how passionate you are about it. Why is that? What makes you so committed to this program?
Well, I think it all comes down to like my purpose to study sustainable tourism, which was when I was living in the French Alps, and I was seeing how for like 5 years the snow cover was really declining, and the impacts of that had in not just like the ski industry sector, but also in like the environment, and like you could see how the glaciers were receding, you could see how the snow patterns were changing. And I think that's mainly climate change. That's the effects of what we actually, all the CO2 and all the greenhouse gases that we're putting in the atmosphere. And yeah, just finding a way to actually do something, to make myself feel useful in a way that I'm passionate about. And just finding, the Strong Climate Champions was in an essence how I found Sanex, and how I found your work and Oli's work to actually bring the youth together to be agents of change in our sector.
Well, you might be interested to know that in the UN World Tourism Organization, one of the earliest Secretary Generals, Francesco Frangiali, is still, I think, the mayor of Morgine in the French Alps. And he told me that his interest in climate change was created exactly for the same reason that you've just described. He could see the snow cover disappearing, and the village that he was the mayor of losing a massive amount of its income and its ability to survive. So
exactly. We see
in good
now
company, Angie.
Yeah, no, I should meet him. But we see that before we used to have white Christmas, and not just in the snow mountains, but also in many other regions in Europe and the world. Like where I'm from in Madrid, I live 50 kilometers away from the city, like near the mountains. And we used to, like when I was younger, we had white Christmas. It was actually snowing at Christmas time, and now the snow is not happening. It's literally not happening. You probably have like a really, really sunny day in Christmas instead of.
Yeah. What kind of a person would you say you're looking for in the program that you're putting together?
Right. So what we're trying to bring together is we're trying to work by countries. So in each country, we are finding a climate champion leader who can work with a team of climate champions. So what we are looking for this leader is, well, first of all, to have knowledge and background on climate change and tourism, and most particularly have taken either the diploma offered by Sanex, the Climate Friendly Travel Diploma, or the training, the summer school or climate champion training that we also provide in a few times a year. So then we make sure that people have this knowledge. But apart from this knowledge, what we're trying to find is for candidates who have a strong passion to actually make a difference in the communities they live in and the companies they work for, and to drive a small team of people that can come together to actually implement, which is the hardest thing, I think, in this sector, to actually implement the principles of climate-friendly travel into the lifestyles of the communities and into the daily operations of their companies. So we're looking for people who are passionate. We're looking for people who are driven to drive change in the region, in their country, and we're looking for people who can spare a few hours and who can commit to this program, and who can help us. It can also, it's not just us providing them, that we also learn so much from them. So I think just having like all these realities coming together really fits the program into something that has a worldwide reach.
Well, you're just about to have your second baby, Angie. So my question to you to end this very nice discussion is, do you think you're going to have enough time when you've had your second baby and had a little bit of a getting used to this new situation? Are you going to have enough time to come back and help us run this program?
Well, I hope so. You know, I mean, even though I'm now a mother of a little girl and another one on the way, I think the passion that drives my life is just actually do something for them to have a better world, and to actually be able to see gorillas in Indonesia like I did, or see penguins in Antarctica one day, or even polar bears. You know, I don't want them to live and to grow up in a world that to have less opportunities, or that they can experience less things because of what we do. So I really hope I can manage. I'm sure I will. And because, yeah, we actually need everyone that has this drive and this passion to come together to do something, and to actually help us navigate this climate crisis into something that is manageable, and that we can keep living in this world, basically.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at the next stage, maybe with your 2 kids alongside you, and hopefully helping in the good fight to make sure the penguins don't appear in Spain, because it's got to be too hot in the Arctic and too cold in Spain.
Exactly. Thank you, Jeffrey, and thanks for keeping this good work up.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I'm really looking forward to working with you in the future. Thank you, Angela.
Young people make up a large part of the world's population. Youths are key in climate-friendly travel, not only because youths aged between 15 and 29 represent 23% of international tourist arrivals, but because youths are the backbone of society. Youths are extremely influential and are future parents and future leaders in companies, governments, and agencies that will develop policies and strategies. Youths are the generation that can cause the bottom-up transformation and inspire people and corporations towards transforming the future of the society with their mindset and bold behavior, changing the approach to a climate-friendly travel one. Youths are the role models that inspire hope and change across all generations. Young people are a major force for development and social change, and have the potential to drive an innovative style towards climate-friendly travel. Youths have only been aware of a digital age, which along the past decade has become a mobile adapted digital environment, with easily available information, communication platforms, and tools. Youths adapt easily and have incorporated technology as a seamless part of their day-to-day experiences, which can be used as a great way of raising awareness, sharing knowledge, and communicating to a wider global audience. Young people are consistently at the leading edge of change and innovation by thinking outside the box, pushing boundaries, and experimenting with the new. And the climate-friendly travel is no exception. In a period of unprecedented challenge for the travel industry, youths are a vital resource of innovation and change. Solutions and technology are already available, and what is required is enthusiasm, will, and leadership to move farther and faster. Youths have the energy, vision, and agility to drive this change forward, and it is these qualities that gives them a key role in climate-friendly travel. Thank you.
Magandang araw from the Philippines. That means good day from the Philippines, from wherever you are, whichever time zone you're in. I'm Nella, and I'm the youth chair for the Asia Pacific region, also one of the students of the first ever climate-friendly travel diploma by the SunX and Malta. Thank you so much for having me for this keynote speech and for the opportunity the past year to be part of this transformational program. So today I was asked to talk about the role of youth in climate-friendly travel. And I guess I'd like to start from a personal perspective and share a little about my story as a traveler and as a founder of a sustainable tourism enterprise for conservation and grassroots development. So in my younger years, in my early 20s, and I'm still part of the youth, I'm still part of that age range, it's part of the youth, but in my younger years as a traveler, it was really about traveling to satisfy this curiosity for adventure, ticking off places off my bucket list, seeing destinations because of the excitement to explore, to get out there, to do this and that, to try new food, to seek different experiences. But as a traveler through the years, my purpose grew deeper, especially immersing in the different communities, especially in rural areas in our country, and seeing how it could be improved in different parts of the globe, seeing the wonder of nature and culture of the various destinations that I visited. I really wanted to make an impact in terms of bringing together what I've learned from my various travels abroad to my country, and seeing where we could still do change in terms of the positive contribution that we make to the environment and to the communities that we travel in. So I began to question certain frameworks and certain systems that were being done in our country, and in different parts of the globe, that I saw were harming the environment, that I saw were not equitable to communities. And I wanted myself to be part of the change in making sure that tourism was green, clean, was just, was inclusive, and equitable for everyone. And so that's my personal story as a youth member. And I believe that so many youth out there are just like me. We're starting to, or we've questioned certain ways of living that we don't see are benefiting our environment, or the world that we live in. And as youth, we're the voice that demands change, because we're going to be here for a while. And our future children will also take the brunt of whatever we do and the impact that we leave. And so we keep asking ourselves, what kind of impact do we want to leave? What's the legacy that we want to be known for as youth? And so I think that's the reason why the youth is seen as one of the most powerful sectors in terms of sustainable development. Of course, it really takes coming together as a community, as a society, but youth are seen as communicators, as leaders, as visionaries, as innovators, as change makers. And if we harness that, those characteristics of the youth, I think that we could really do and really create a change in terms of the climate-friendly travel landscape, and not just in travel, but in other areas. And so I'm really looking forward to continue being a part of this sector that drives change, and learning from mentors, seeing the innovations and what we could bring wherever we are present in, to change the landscape and the ball game for the destinations that we represent and the voices that we aim to give a voice for. So that's that, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I'm really looking forward to the session today, and hopefully everyone as well is looking forward to this summit. Thank you for everyone who put together this amazing initiative, and we look forward to what you will be learning. So thank you.
And then finally, we take a look at the links we are building with SDG 17 partners. SunX Malta has been steadily building SDG 17 mutual support and promotion partnerships with a wide variety of organizations and companies who are working to advance green and clean tourism. They've all agreed to support the advancement of climate-friendly travel, and in return, we've found one area of great importance to them in this field that we've agreed to support their activities. There are more than 30 of these SDG 17 partnerships out there, ranging from the big ones like the World Travel and Tourism Council and the ECC to the small ones with individual sustainability consultants who we've had experience with over the years and who we are ready to identify as being leaders in regard to the development of climate-friendly travel. We're now going to hear from Mark Jackson, one of our former students, who is now the manager of a company, a private sector company that has been created to help promote these services and to help build the climate-friendly travel lifestyle in communities.
Hi, I'm Mark Bibby Jackson, and I'm here to talk to you today about climate-friendly travel services, a new company that we've launched, which, as we say, provides clean and green travel solutions. As you have already heard, climate change is existential. That's the starting point for everything. And in order to achieve Paris 1.5 and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 and eliminate them completely by 2050. In a nutshell, we have to get ahead of the curve. It's relatively easy to make pledges, to sign for well-meaning declarations, such as at Glasgow, which I myself have signed. But it's a lot more difficult to start to implement tough measures which will actually achieve your Paris commitment. And this is why we have started climate-friendly travel solutions. We're clean, Paris 1.5, we're green, Sustainable Development Goals. And we have a city approach because we recognize that most emissions are generated within cities. Our purpose, our role, our aim is to help those trailblazing communities and companies, the NTOs, cities, to achieve their goals and to turn their declarations into actions. The way we do this is by harnessing the positive force of tourism. Too often people mention how negative tourism can be, but we genuinely believe that tourism can be a force for good. And therefore we're using Sunx Malta's commercial partners in order to deliver climate-friendly travel solutions and to help destinations, cities, NTOs, not only to preserve their assets for future generations, but also to achieve climate and sustainability action plans in the process of preserving these treasures. So how does it work? You've heard from Hans already about the CFT registry, which allows you access to the whole Sunx climate-friendly travel program. That's your first step. You join the registry. After that, you will qualify for the climate-friendly travel eco badge, which you can see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, which demonstrates your commitment to achieving zero GHG by 2050 and 50% reduction by 2030. And you can use this in all your marketing materials. We will help promote this for you, and it will be a clean and green eco badge for travel and tourism. In addition to that, you will have a free consultation with our experts to see what products and services are the most applicable for you, to see which will help you achieve your goals. For we realize that whoever you are in a city in Europe or a small island destination, you will have different needs, different requirements, and therefore different products and services will suit you. And finally, we will help you roll these solutions out in order that you will achieve your own climate-friendly travel goals. You will achieve the goals of your sustainability action plans. So what services are we talking about? Now, this is just an initial snapshot. As you know, we're a very new, young company, and the range of the portfolio of services that we will offer will increase over time. But already we can provide services such as a free disaster risk assessment, which can help you plan ahead for potential climate impacts, on offline mobile maps, which will indicate attractions that visitors can go to, which they can book through as well with no fee, and other things, carbon offsetting, with community-based reforestation projects, how you can use the low season in order to increase the amount of tourists you get to your destination without increasing your climate impact, as well as things which maybe do not seem immediately as tourism activities, such as solar energy provision. The range of services that we can provide is extensive. And the aim for this is to preserve your city's unique culture, the DNA of society. And in doing so, we will help make your destinations, your cities more attractive to visitors, especially responsible travelers. And in addition to this, it will help future-proof these attractions. As I mentioned before, these are the often at most threat from climate change. And we will help you demonstrate, especially through our Eco Badge, the real efforts that you are taking to preserve your cultural attractions for the future, as well as responding in a very positive manner to the Paris 1.5 imperative. So this is our commitment to you. We will help you get ahead of the climate curve. We understand the challenges, the seemingly insurmountable task that is facing you. And we will help you achieve your climate targets. We believe strongly that working together, we can all achieve the Paris 1.5 target. We're here to help you achieve your goals. The bottom line is we will charge an annual fee of €1,000. And this sum of money will provide you full access to all our advisory services. And 10% of this money will go to Sunex's Strong Climate Champions program, which I believe you have already been told about. And finally, you will be able to enter the Climate Smart Awards. So chosen museums and art galleries can apply for this prestigious accolade, which will get media attention in publications such as the New York Times. Thank you for your time. You can contact me below on the email address or look at our newly launched website. Let us help you deliver on your greenhouse gas free commitments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And now that's the end of our presentations for today. And we're ready again for a discussion. Thank you.